Hi, I'm Kim. I make videos for over 50 ladies that are maybe starting over, 50, 60, 70, 80, and basically videos just about real life that have nothing to do with makeup and fashion. So today I'm going to talk about 6 ways to stop being mean to yourself. And I'm talking to myself when I say that. I did this video once already and my microphone was not working. So we're going to do it again, and I'm sure this one will be even better. I'm just going to get right into it. First of all, I'm going to share a story. I go in spurts where I write a lot, and sometimes I put notes in my phone and thoughts and things like that. And apparently, I wrote this about 5 months ago now. It was in January. And I don't have any recollection of writing it. I'm 59. What can I say? So I'm going to share this, and it's an example of a day when I was being mean to myself and what I did about it. And then I'm going to give you 6 things that I think are helpful. So this is very vulnerable. But hey, it's about community and connection, helping people feel less alone. So here we go. I walked my dogs tonight and I forgot my earbuds. Without something to listen to, it's always the perfect opportunity for my brain to berate me. How are you almost 60 and don't have your ish together? What are you thinking about going back for your master's at 58? How did I end up here? You don't have a pot to pee in or a window to throw it out of. One of my mom's popular sayings. Not about me, but about herself. Why can't you stick with an exercise routine long enough to see any results? I caught myself and realized how mean I was being to me. You've seen all the Insta posts about treating yourself like you would treat a good friend when they're struggling. So I said out loud, I got to work on time. I took great care of the kids I watch. I'm a nanny for 4 kids, ages 1 to 7. I took great care of my dogs. I have 2 schnauzers. I'm working on loving myself. I drank lots of water. I encouraged one of my adult kids and was there for them. I checked in on one of my adult kids. I studied even though classes don't start for a few days. If you haven't watched my earlier videos, I started a master's degree to be a social worker and become a licensed therapist in January. I got some exercise by walking my dogs, and then a core memory popped into my head. Flashing lights from an emergency vehicle that I could see from inside my house. I think we've all had the experience where we've been inside at night, and if there's an emergency vehicle anywhere close to a window or across the street, you can just see those lights. And that's what I remember. I was around 5, so my sister would have been 8. I have no memory of what we were doing before the lights. Like most of my childhood, I have a few mundane memories, like playing with toys or watching TV or playing outside. But I remember the lights, and then I remember having to go stay with our neighbors across the street that I don't remember knowing very well. My alcoholic dad was nowhere around. They took my mom away in the ambulance. I found out when I was much older, my mom attempted to unalive herself that night. My mom felt desperate enough to take pills and end her life in the presence of her young children. Thankfully, she wasn't successful. But what must that have done to a 5-year-old? Emergency lights, EMS workers, seeing your mom taken away, going to a neighbor's that you didn't know and having to sleep there. I don't even know how many nights she was in the hospital. Knowing my mom wasn't okay because we couldn't stay at home with her that night. I remember very little about that night. My little 5-year-old brain buried it and many other traumatic experiences in order to survive and try to make sense of the world. It's time to hold that memory up to the light and let my kindergarten self grieve what she lost that day. And for those of you that don't know, both my parents were alcoholics. I realized about 4 years ago I have complex trauma, CPTSD. So I was being very mean to myself. Once I read this, I remember that day and just how frustrated I was with myself and how down on myself I was. I was walking in a neighborhood. I live in an apartment, and there's an adjacent neighborhood that are really nice. Well, they're average houses now. I live in the DFW Metroplex, and housing prices are ridiculous. But, 2-story single family homes. And I just remember thinking, how did I end up here? Why am I in this position where I don't even have a yard for my dogs or room to, host people? And so what I did was I started talking to myself differently that day. So I'm going to go over 6 things that I have learned to do. I don't do them every time. 6 things I remember to keep in mind when I realize I'm talking meanly or thinking meanly about myself. So, number 1, understanding that it will pass. It's taken me 58 years to realize I have these episodes of being triggered. I think in that day it was just being in a neighborhood where there were so many like young families with house, and you don't know what's going on behind those closed doors, but it just felt like something I had at one time and I don't have anymore, and I don't know if I'll ever have it again. And so it started me down that kind of hopeless, shaming myself. It's just shame, 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 which if you know anything about adult children of alcoholics or kids that have suffered childhood trauma, that is like a classic thing. We're not good enough. We don't deserve good things. So understand that it will pass. When I have something like that now, I try to feel it and then understand that in 30 minutes or an hour or a day or 2, I won't feel that way anymore. I might feel that way again later. But when I feel hopeless and frustrated and down on myself, it's helpful for me to understand that it's temporary. This too will pass. Number 2 is to try to just be aware of what I'm thinking and how I'm talking to myself. I would never talk to a friend of mine or one of my adult kids. I have 3 adult daughters. I just would never talk to anyone. I was going to say anyone I care about, but I would never talk to anyone that way. So why do I talk to myself that way? So try to just be aware, and I don't catch it the first time. Sometimes I might be thinking things like that all day and I don't realize it. But I'm trying to be more aware of when I catch those thoughts. Number 3 is the concept of reparenting, which is basically just giving yourself the things you maybe didn't get in childhood that you needed. I heard, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but I heard someone say, a therapist I follow online, sorry, I have 2 dogs, that sadness typically is from a smaller child. So when you're feeling sad, that may come from something that you experienced as a small child or that's being triggered from a small child. And when you're angry, that would be more likely coming from like an adolescent or teenager, the teenager you. So asking yourself, what do I need right now? And parenting yourself basically, just like you would if you had a child that started to spiral out of control. Are they hungry? Are they thirsty? Are they tired? Do they need to get some fresh air? Do they need to get a little bit of exercise? Do they need a hug? Do they need to talk? Just thinking about really getting in touch with what would make me feel better right now. I think that's something that just comes with practice. I don't think for me anyway, it's not natural that I go, oh, well, I'm feeling quite tired and thirsty. It's hard for me to tap into my feelings and know what I'm feeling. But again, it's just practice and in time being comfortable with, okay, what would probably help me feel better right now? So that's number 3. Oh, and one thing that I do with a good friend of mine is we Vox. If you're not familiar with that, that's a voice memo app. So that's a way to connect with someone if you can't be there in person, or if you're an empty nester or single person like I am. So number 4, think of some nice things to say about yourself, or some things that you're proud of, or some things that you've accomplished. Nothing is too small. In my list that I shared with you at the beginning, I just tried to go through and remind myself, I'm doing things, I'm doing well, I'm taking care of people, I'm taking care of myself, I'm responsible. Whatever you can pull from. And again, nothing is too small. So they could be accomplishments, things you're proud of, things you like about yourself, character traits, just something to get you to shift to shutting down the negative and thinking about something positive. Number 5 is gratitude. This is very trite. Well, just be grateful. So you be careful not to kind of go into toxic positivity, because that's a whole other kind of negative thing to do. But just taking a moment and finding something, even if it's just one thing or a few things that you are grateful for in that moment. It shifts our focus, right? I think it was Tony Robbins, which I know he's had some issues as of late, but somehow I was watching on social media and he was interviewing somebody, and I just saw a little snippet of it, but they must have been talking about this topic, and he told him to look around the room really close at everything and then close his eyes, look around the room for anything brown, and then close his eyes and tell him what he saw that was brown. And so he named off some brown things, some tan things, some beige things. He was just kind of trying to find something. And then he asked him, what did he see that was red? Well, he couldn't remember anything was red because he wasn't looking for anything that was red. I think it's also called your reticular activation or activating system. My daughter bought a CRV a couple of years ago, or an HRV, sorry, and I hadn't ever really noticed them before. And then after she bought that car, I feel like I saw that car everywhere. I'm sure the cars were always there. I just wasn't focusing on them. So, gratitude, looking for something to be thankful for. Try to avoid thankful for my health, I'm thankful for my kids, I'm thankful. And it can be something small, like I'm thankful for the hot coffee I'm holding in my hand. I'm thankful for the way my dog looks at me and tilts his head. Just those kinds of things, just the tiniest things, just to focus on being grateful for. And then number 6 is somatic healing. Trauma lives in the body, and I think we've all been through trauma, whether it's big T trauma or little t trauma, and all the talk therapy in the world, not that talk therapy isn't useful, but it won't get that out. So sometimes when I'm spiraling out of control, it's because I'm triggered by something that I'm completely unaware of. It could be a song, it could be a smell, it could be a person, or something I've seen. But somatic healing helps us get it out of our body. So dancing, hugging yourself, putting your hand on your heart, deep breathing. You can look up different breathing exercises. I won't go into them now. Maybe that's another video. Yoga, just something that helps you get in touch with your body and helps gently release that trauma in a way that is healing. So those are my 6 ways that I find are helpful for me to stop being mean to myself. I hope you find them helpful too. If you have some ways that you found helpful, drop them in the comments. I always like to leave with some kind of a quote or share a story. I collect them like crazy because I'm constantly coming across things that I just go, oh man, that is so good. Okay. This is by Zanna Keithley, Zanna, the name Keith, Ley. I'll try to remember to put it down below, but I saw this on Instagram and was like, oh, I love that. So I'm going to share it with you. You're someone's favorite person. You're the best part of their day. You're the thing that keeps them going. You're their deep, soulful sigh of relief. You're the breath of fresh air they take after a long day of walking through crowded rooms and confined spaces. You're the sunbeam that pierces through gray skies. You're a safe place to land. The one visible star on a cloudy night, the way home. And I know there are days when you feel lost and uncertain of your place in the world. You may feel like nothing you do or say makes a difference. But I hope you know that you are a gift to every single person who has the honor of experiencing just a fraction of your light. Your presence is both the most grounding and uplifting thing in this world, and you are so incredibly vital and necessary and important. You're it. You're the one. You're everything. I hope that was helpful. I hope you feel less alone. I know that that is it's critical for me to just know that I'm not alone. So you're not alone, and stay tuned for the next one.
What's going on, guys? Are you meditating?